For more than 5 years, the broken window theory crew has been searching for the beauty of decay. We're visiting places which are not mentioned in any travel guide of the world. Abandoned buildings simply magically attract us. But we are not the only ones. Over the past few years, a consistently growing community has formed, which focuses on the hidden and forgotten sites all over the world. On websites, social media or forums, more and more photos and videos of such places get published. Since we started on YouTube, people have been texting us because they want to know how to Urbex. For all those people who want to be urban explorers, we put together a simple but helpful guide. This video provides you with tips and tricks how to find abandoned buildings. We show you what you need for your explorations and how to get prepared properly. Safety and legality is also a topic of this video. And for all the amateur photographers, we will have some advices in the end of the video as well. But mind you, no guarantee can be given for completeness. In this tutorial, we just collect our experiences and reveal helpful tips and tricks. So if you can think of something we have forgotten, please share your information in the comment section down below. But enough idle talk, let's start with the guide. Urbex, or UE, is short for urban exploration. This term basically describes the exploration of unseen or off-limit parts of human civilization you're not supposed to visit. Forbidden or abandoned as well as unusual places have a special attraction to many people. We would like to know what's hidden there. We want to satisfy our curiosity and experience the thrill. Urbex means to give in to these urges. As soon as you're opening a door that's supposed to be shut, you're entering the world of urban exploring. But beware, in most cases the entering of such places is the same as trespassing. So if you're urbexing, you should be aware of legal consequences in your country. Financial penalties or even prison sentences might be the result of this hobby. Since it could be a criminal act, you shouldn't trifle with it. In addition to that, the exploration of urbex locations can also be a risk to your health. And from time to time, you could even be risking your life. It is very important to know that. There are many different terms for urban exploration, like place hacking, infiltration, or roofing. But some of those words are just subcategories of urbex. Infiltration, for example, is the name for exploring active or in-use buildings. The risk of getting caught while doing that is obviously relatively high. Roofing, however, describes the climbing of roofs, cranes, or other man-made structures. Mostly, you will be rewarded with a spectacular view. But roofing is also very dangerous if you haven't got that much experience with climbing. There are more examples like draining, but our favorite part of urbex is the exploration of abandoned properties. That's what we're doing on our channel, and that's what this video is all about. Urbex, by the way, is the rural counterpart to that. It's basically urbex outside of urban environments.
Before it gets practical, we have to continue with the theoretical part for a bit longer. Because if you don't know where to find abandoned places, you obviously can't explore them. We get messages all the time in which people ask us what's the address of this place or that place. However, usually coordinates of abandoned sites aren't given away easily in order to protect them. Because if places get overrun, the chances are higher that they get destroyed or sealed up. And that's in the interest of nobody. When people ask me how to find abandoned places, I usually say that it needs 3 things. These are good contacts, lot of research and simply luck. Let's start with the first one. The first tip I can give you is get connected. There's an unbelievable amount of platforms for urbexers online. You should participate on all those channels where people are talking about abandoned places. Of course, this could be Facebook, for example. Here you can find plenty of groups about that hobby. These are the groups I have joined, and maybe you have even seen a post of BWT in one of these groups in the past. Other possible platforms for urbexers might be Instagram, Reddit, blogs or forums, for example. Join these pages, be an active member and get to know some of the people. Exchange your knowledge and maybe even go explore together with some of the guys. That way you will learn the addresses of new places and you have the chance to meet new cool people. In general, it's a great idea to connect with locals when you want to explore a place that's far away from your hometown. For example, before we drove all the way to Luxembourg a year ago, we got in touch with a local YouTuber called Urbex to explore together. Same with Austria. When we got there, we met with the Tetogram and S3G photography. Since we have been doing YouTube for quite some time now, we've been in touch with those guys for years already, and it was really great to finally meet them in real life. Locals usually know the best spots in their hoods, and because of their insider knowledge, they can tell you the best access points or what might be dangerous when you are exploring a place they know. Now I will show you some of those forums. According to where you're from, your country probably has its own forum or even several ones. This, for example, is a brand new Austrian forum. Here in Germany we have multiple Urbex forums, but of course there are also plenty of platforms in English language. The Urbex community, by the way, often exchanges addresses or coordinates of abandoned sites. So if you like the pictures of one particular place, you should message the guy who posted them and offer him one of your places in return. When you are new to the hobby, it's often very hard to become a part of the community because at first, obviously, nobody wants to tell you any addresses. People need to trust you first before you can expect anything from them. The rest takes care of itself. Either you have built your own network of valuable Urbex contacts, or you have established a reputation and people contact you on their own and even gift you addresses of super cool secret Urbex locations. We already got several messages like that, and we are always happy when someone has so much confidence in us. Thanks for that, guys. Okay, let's continue with the next tip. This one is about research on the internet. It can be really time consuming, but the hunt for abandoned places is part of the game. So before we start Googling in just a bit, it's important to know that abandoned structures get a code name in most of the cases in order to protect them, because outsiders will have a hard time finding these sites. In some exceptional cases, it's also possible that these sites get multiple code names, which makes it even more complicated. So it's important to always find out the real name of a place. This makes it easier to find information about it. Every research starts with the search engine of your choice. I prefer Google, and the plan is now to find the address of a location together. Let's start small. If you're new to the hobby, you should begin with an abandoned place in your neighborhood. Originally, the whole BWT crew comes from a small town near Dresden in the eastern part of Germany. A nearby city is called Radebeul. In the past we have explored several abandoned places in this town. And now we will find one. So as a first keyword, I'm typing the name of the favorite city, which is Radebeul in that case. The second keyword obviously has to do something with Urbex, so I could use Urbex or urban exploration, or maybe abandoned places, for example. But since I'm searching for a place in Germany, I will get the most results when I'm using a German term. Here in Germany we obviously don't say abandoned place because it's English. We say lost place, which is still English on the one hand, but on the other hand it's a pseudo-Anglicism. So to all the native English speakers out there, are you also using the term lost place when you are speaking about Urbex, or is it just us? I have to know, please answer in the comments. Okay, however, so I'm adding lost places and I'm already getting plenty of results here. I will click on the first video because it sounds really interesting. It's an abandoned office tower and it looks really good. By the way, if you're doing online research, you should always check the videos or photos for dates. This one is from 2013, so the place probably has changed a lot in the last few years. So this place looks really cool, and now I want to find out where the tower is located in the city. And the guy who uploaded the video made the search very easy. Because the name of the place is in the video title. And it's not a code name or something like that, but the real one. Besides that, I can find plenty of additional info in the video description, which makes it even easier to find the place. But I think I don't need much more than the real name of the building, so I'm copying it and I'm pasting it into my Google search. While doing a research on the internet, it's always a good idea to search news platforms. Local newspapers often report when companies fall into insolvency or when they relocate. Apart from that, you can find articles about redevelopment measures focusing on uninhabited properties. Or you can find reports about fire runs at vacant buildings because vandals set them on fire. And the best thing, in most cases, you will find the address of those places in the text, or at least some clues. And if the text is in a foreign language, you can use Google Translate, for example, in order to understand them. So let's see what we can find in the news about this office tower. Okay, there's only this one article, but apparently it's about the place we are looking for. This article says that the property was sold. And here you can find the address, as expected. So I'm copying it and I'm pasting it into Google Maps as a next step. So let's see. Remember, the place looked like this. Here. The shapes of the buildings look exactly the same and the whole site lies waste, obviously. There are no cars and it's even a bit overgrown here. Let's change to the 3D view and here we have the confirmation. It's definitely the abandoned place we were looking for. So this was really easy indeed. We picked this office tower because it has been torn down already. For obvious reasons, we can't share addresses of abandoned buildings publicly, so we needed a place that isn't explorable anymore. But don't worry if you want to see something about this place. We were there a few years ago and we even have a video. At this point, a few more things about Google Maps. Online map services are a great tool to find abandoned places or to plan your approach. Abandoned properties are easily identified with a bird's eye view. Is there a company name displayed on an industrial site? Are there cars? Did the roof collapse? Or is the property overgrown? These are only a few indicators. But the very important thing you have to mind is that those satellite images and the Google Street View might be outdated, so check for dates. Okay, now I want to show you another thing. This time we are searching on YouTube. In fact, we are going to find an abandoned castle. Let's take the very first video, it's the one from Bros of Decay, and it's about the notorious Chateau Miranda, which was torn down as well, by the way. So if Urbexers upload photos or videos, they might leave behind some tags, which reveal the location of a place. And when watching a video on YouTube, you can activate the website source code, which looks like this. Somewhere here, you can find the keywords. Let's just search for them. I type in keywords. Okay. Here we go. Chateau de Noisy, Chateau Miranda. Haunted, ghost, scary, spooky, devil, satanic. Okay, obviously they can't help us. But with some other videos here on YouTube, you will have some more luck. Another site that's really helpful for your search is Wikipedia. I still want to know the exact location of Chateau Miranda. Luckily it's not the code name, but the real name. So I just Google it. The building is that famous that it has its own Wikipedia article. And Wikipedia records the addresses of many interesting places. As it does here, just click on it and choose your preferred online map. I choose Google Maps Satellite. And that's it. If you still have any doubts, just activate the image gallery and you might find photos of the place you are looking for. And as you can see, Chateau Miranda. Very often you can find additional information about a place in forums or blogs or similar pages. Details like the year of construction or the year when the place shut down are very helpful for your research. Try to find out as many information about the place as possible. The more you have, the easier it will be to find the place with online search engines. Okay, so these were only a few tips for your research. Of course there are way more possibilities, but we don't want to reveal them all just yet. After all, the whole search is still part of the hobby. And if you really want to find out the address of an abandoned place, you will find it. Just get creative and use all the different tools the internet is offering you. Alright, so we have dealt with 2 of the 3 points now. We talked about connections and about research. Let's get to the third factor now, which is luck. In general, I would say that there are way more abandoned places out there as you might think. This means, when you are on the road, always keep an eye out for such places. And that's the topic I would like to talk to you about now. When you are on the way, whether it's by car, by train, by bike or simply by foot, there's always the chance to spot an abandoned building by accident. Now I have a few tips for you how to recognize those buildings. For that reason, we decided to simply start driving and look what we will discover. There are certain criteria abandoned sites fulfill. For example, graffiti or broken windows. A classic example for that looks like this. It's a factory that was abandoned already a very long time ago, obviously. Just look at those windows. They are all smashed. And nobody is using that building anymore. Note the poorly placed fence and the trash that was dumped on the property. From the distance we spotted this tower. It's colorful and doesn't seem very abandoned at first. But there's graffiti. So we took a closer look at this building complex. The front is also extremely colorful. But when you look closely, you can see that there are broken windows and the entrance door was barricaded. It's definitely an abandoned building. This one right here is a bit more difficult. The site and the building both look very empty, but it wasn't a workday when we visited the place. That's why there aren't any people. Now we are getting closer to the truth. The whole loading ramp is full of graffiti. But that's not saying much. Okay, here we've got it. There's even more graffiti and the entrance is barricaded as well. Besides that, the property is a bit overgrown. When we look up, We can see more graffiti on some of the windows, okay, so it's definitely abandoned. And on the backside of the building we can even spot the notorious broken windows. Nobody's taking care of this place anymore. This one is a bit difficult as well. The windows are all barricaded or walled up, as you can see here. So my first thought was that the building complex has to be abandoned. Let's get to the front gate. In the background you can see some broken windows, okay, cool. But you have to pay attention to the details. For example, there is this doorway with camera. As it turned out, people are living here. Not every building that looks ramshackle has to be abandoned. Pay attention to cars on the property or look whether the lawn was cut recently, for example. These things point that someone is still caring about the place. And in case of doubt, if you're not 100% sure that the place is abandoned, you should abort the mission. Okay, I've got one more short clip for you. Look at the beautiful manor. It's probably abandoned, right? Just look how overgrown the site is. And there are even trees growing out of the roof. The windows are barricaded and there's a no trespassing sign at the door. So yes, obviously nobody's living there anymore. And it is vacant or was abandoned. There are many more clues that reveal whether a place is abandoned or not. But it's very important to gather as many information as possible before you are going to explore that place. What's the security situation? Where can I get in? And what's expecting me inside the building? These are questions you should find the answers to before the exploration. But mind you, even with the best preparation, you can't know for sure what to expect. Abandoned places are changing all the time, so be prepared to be flexible. In the end, a few more words about the organization of the addresses. After some time you will probably have collected a nice amount of coordinates. To keep track of them all, you should save the addresses in a database. In order to do that, we are using Google My Maps. For obvious reasons I had to blur the map, but you get the idea. To stay on the safe side when it comes to legalities, you should always explore abandoned buildings with the permission of the owner. But in most cases it's nearly impossible to get one. Inquiries are usually denied or people are expecting payments or donations in return. But usually you won't even find out who the owner is in the first place. By now there are several providers for guided photo tours to abandoned places. It's totally legal. However, there are usually high costs involved and you're exploring with a very big group. And that's it, guys. Now you should know how to find abandoned places. But don't expect to find the reddest buildings right around the corner. Probably the most impressive sites are very far away from you. But no way is too far for an urban explorer. Some hardcore urbexers are even traveling several hundred miles only to see one particular location.
So by now you should have found an abandoned building you would like to visit. But what's next? What gear do you need and how do you get prepared for the exploration? That's the topic of this chapter. Urban exploration can be really dangerous and every urbexer should be aware of that. Floors might be unstable, maybe you have to face a tricky climb, or what's even worse, there might be toxic waste or asbestos. Every abandoned place has different pitfalls. That's why it's so important to know what you have to face during the exploration, because that's the only way to get prepared properly. All the gear I've spread here is useful during the exploration. But you don't need everything every time, we also barely use some of this stuff. Before packing our backpack in just a bit, we should get dressed properly at first. Basically, you should choose worn-out clothes, because while exploring they might get dirty or even wrecked. We prefer to choose dark colors, so the garments aren't very eye-catching. And we recommend wearing long trousers as well as long sleeve tops, so arms and legs are completely covered and protected. Layered clothing is perfect for urban exploring. Wearing several layers of clothes gives you additional protection. and the temperatures inside an abandoned building might be completely different from the outside temperature. It's never a bad idea to have spare clothes in your backpacks or the trunk of your car. Proper shoes are essential. This means thick soles with a good grip. And with steel toes, your feet are completely safe. You should protect your head as well. Bring a cap or even a helmet in extremely dangerous environments like mines. When choosing a backpack, keep in mind it's best to travel lightly. If there are little holes, you can easily squeeze your way through, and climbing is also more fun with a small bag. Did you choose your favorite backpack? Awesome, let's start packing. Bring enough food and water by all means. You don't want to dehydrate inside the ramshackle hut. And it's hard to explore with an empty stomach. Bring your phone. You can mute it or even turn it off. But in case of an emergency, it's necessary. Bring your ID card as well. You will be glad to have it if security or the police catch you. But store it away safely, so you don't lose it. Flashlights are essential. You should always see where you're going. In case one isn't working anymore, you should bring multiple lamps. A really bright one would be great, and so is a headlamp, because with that you can give light and your hands are free at the same time. Depending on the situation, you should pack a respirator mask. But mind you that it has to be the right one in order to give enough protection. That's why it's important to know what kind of contaminated air you will face. Is it dust, mold, asbestos, or even everything at once? There are different kinds of protection categories. Inform yourself about your local standards. After European standard, safety class FFP3 offers enough protection against all those air pollutions. And when you have a filter mask, your filters obviously shouldn't be used up. If you want to take photos and videos in abandoned buildings, you should of course bring your camera. But make sure to clean the lenses before the exploration. It would suck to find out afterwards that all the images failed because of a dirty lens. Best would be to pack some lens wipes as well. Cut-resistant gloves are really worthwhile. They're handy in so many situations. For example, when climbing through a broken window. But also when you want to touch anything inside an abandoned building, you should wear gloves. Of course, your backpack wouldn't be complete without a penknife. It doesn't take away much space, and it's useful in quite a number of situations. If you have binoculars, pack them too. They're great for sounding out the situation. Walkie-talkies. They're freaking cool and freaking useful. It's a good way to stay in contact with your mates, even if you have split up while exploring. If you want to play it safe, bring a first aid kit. Medical strips, sanitizer, bandages and a pair of scissors are indispensable in case of an emergency. Tape is also quite handy. It's always good when you need to improvise. For example, when you need to stick together something or when you want to tag the route you're taking. That way you won't get lost inside a cave or something similar. In case you would like to draw your route or a map, it's useful to bring some pencils and paper. But our insider's tip, pack baby wipes. Especially when you're not wearing gloves, your hands are getting dirty real quick. You will be glad to have a bag of wipes to clean them. And it just feels so good. When you're using something from a backpack, there might be some garbage as a result. That's why you should pack a rubbish bag as well. Don't leave your waste on the side. If you're really bold, you can wear a high visibility vest when entering an abandoned property, or even during the exploration. Outsiders might think that you belong there. But watch out, in general it's a bad idea pretending to be someone else, so better think twice. Do we have gumboots? They're very helpful in some situations. Bunkers, caves, but also basements might be flooded. From time to time you need climbing gear too, or at least a rope. And last but not least, bring enough batteries. Charge all your devices before the exploration and pack a mobile power bank. As said earlier, you won't need all the things we mentioned all the time. But each exploration needs to be prepared individually. So it's necessary to bring the right equipment to the right place. It's also part of a good preparation to check the facts you gathered about the place shortly before you're going to visit it. You would be really angry if you drive there all the way and then realize that it already was torn down a while ago. And it's never a bad idea to plan your approach beforehand. Or maybe you even know someone with detailed insider's knowledge about the place who can tell you the latest news. Or there might be a chance that someone even drew a map of the best approach or the whole place. It's not totally unreasonable. The whole Paris catacombs, for example, were mapped a few years ago. Before you start exploring, you should also tell other people what you're doing for the next few hours. That is mandatory when you're going to very dangerous places like caves or mines. Just tell them where you are, agree on a time, and that's it. If you haven't messaged a trusted person until the agreed time, tell them to come over or even call the ambulance. And the last tip for you, schedule enough time. You can never know how long you will be on the road or stuck in a location.
After planning, researching and getting equipped, it's now finally time for some action. Till is going to explain you now how to enter abandoned places.
Every abandoned place is different, and entering the properties is challenging almost every time. Needless to say that you shouldn't get spotted while doing that. So if you're traveling by car, it would be the best to park not right in front of your destination. Especially non-local license plates are attracting unwanted attention. Park your car away from the property and just walk for a few minutes. There are different approaches for entering abandoned buildings. Some urbexers just go for it when the coast is halfway clear, even if they might get spotted. Concerning this, it's important to add that strangers mostly don't care what you're doing at those places. But not all people mind their own business. That's why we prefer the stealthier way in. If they don't know the way in, some urbexers, like us, prefer to go around the property and look for weak spots. Keep an eye out for trails or so-called Urbex highways. Look for holes in the fence and open or partially opened windows. If you find several entrance points, choose the most inconspicuous way in. Before you get in there, make sure that you don't get spotted by cameras, residents or cars which are passing by. To lower the risk of getting seen, explore the places at a very early or a very late time of day. Sometimes it's the best to go on the weekend or a holiday. At these times, there's usually only a small amount of people on the street you have to watch out for. Don't waste too much time idling in front of the property, especially not in front of the entrance. You might appear sneaky while doing that. Look confident, look like you belong there. And by the way, breaking and entering tools are proscribed. If you get caught, this stuff will make things really, really bad for you. In the best case, you don't have to worry at all and you can simply walk through an open door. But with most buildings, it's way harder than that. You have to climb over fences or squeeze your way through holes. That's why you should be in a good shape, mentally and physically. To get access real quick, you should have some experiences with climbing fences or crawling through holes. Before entering, you should also think about how you will get your bag inside. Fortunately, leaving a place is mostly easier than entering it. One more addition in case it's winter. Snow leads to unique and impressive views, but keep in mind that you're leaving a trace behind you. The upside of that, it's easier to find the Urbex highway. But be careful, roofs of abandoned buildings break under the weight of snow all the time.
In the beginning, it might appear really hard to get inside abandoned buildings. But over time, you will get more and more experienced, and you will see things you haven't noticed before. Sites which seemed inaccessible at first might be feasible now. If you can find photos of an abandoned place's interior shot by other urban explorers, you can assume that there has to be a way in. You just have to find it.
Congratulations, you made it into an abandoned building. And now, it's finally time to start exploring. Really quick you will realize that every abandoned site has its own soul. You cannot do what you want in there. It's probably still private property and you should be respectful. So here are a few tips about the right behavior. Among Urbexes, there's a codex that you should follow. Take nothing but pictures and leave nothing but footprints. This means leave every abandoned place the way you found it. Don't steal anything, but, for example, take your garbage with you. And graffiti and vandalism shouldn't be caused by urban explorers at all. Until today, some people made a few additions to the code, like break nothing but silence, keep nothing but memories, kill nothing but time, and so on. You get the idea. Treat the places with respect. Act in a morally good way. But every Urbexer has different opinions about where to draw the line. Some people are convinced that it's a taboo to touch anything in an abandoned building. Other explorers have a more liberal view of the code. Instead of take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints, they say take nothing that will be missed, leave nothing that will be noticed. Others even move objects and furniture to stage interesting photo motifs. And there are even people who remove damage caused by vandalism, so the place looks alright again. And in some buildings, they're even cleaning graffiti. That's a bit extreme in our opinion. For us personally, it's totally okay to touch stuff, or even move things temporarily for a photo. And of course, it's okay to have fun in such places as well. As mentioned earlier, everyone has to decide for himself or herself what's right and what's wrong. But remember that every other crime you commit in addition to trespassing make things worse for you when police or security show up. Never go exploring by yourself. It's safer when you're in a group with people you trust. If something happens to you, your friends can help or call the ambulance. Exploring abandoned places might also be scary, but the good thing is that you get used to it. To avoid attracting unwanted attention, you should explore without playing loud music, and the volume of your voice should be adequate. Try not to get spotted from the outside, so avoid places without any visual cover. And be careful with your flashlights, especially near windows and after sunset. Don't start any open fires, and it would be the best to not smoke at all. After all, you don't want the place to burn down because of you. Urbex also means maximum concentration. Don't let your guard down and listen to your gut feeling, which leads us to the next topic of this guide.
Abandoned buildings are dangerous places, you should always be aware of that. There probably is a good reason why those sites are off limits to the public.
Only do what you dare to do. Only because there's a ladder doesn't mean you have to climb it. No photo motive, no matter how amazing it is, justifies risking your life. Look out for the floors. Are there any obstacles, rusty nails, shards of glass, bumps or holes? Be especially careful in dark surroundings and have your flashlights ready at any time. If you're photographing, don't move while looking through the viewfinder. Simply watch where you're going. Avoid rotten floors or any sharp-edged objects. Hopefully you brought your first aid kit in case you get hurt. While stepping through a door, you should check whether you can open it from both sides. Once the door closes behind you, you might be locked. Keep an eye out for objects you could use as a doorstop. Although a building is abandoned, it doesn't mean you're alone in there. Other people could also be on the property. Apart from other urbexes, these guys might be workers, kids, homeless people, or even squatters. Keep that in mind. And if you see any photographers, you should greet them and tell them that you're also exploring the site. But if you see people who aren't explorers like you, keep your distance. Don't invade their personal privacy. Brace yourself for contaminants. From time to time, you might find toxic waste in an abandoned building, but it's more likely that you face mold and asbestos. These things are all very dangerous to your health, and if you don't have any protective mask, you should avoid rooms with such hazards. If you're going to buy a mask, make sure it has a sufficient protective class. As mentioned earlier in this video, the European standard class for an all-embracing protection is called FFP3. While doing Urbex, you will probably break laws and might even face police and security. Obviously, you should avoid getting caught. But if guards, cops, or even the owner of the place are already on the property, you should remain calm and stay hidden. If you get spotted, don't run. That's a big mistake because you will look really guilty. Walk up to the guys, be friendly, and explain what you're doing there. If you don't speak the language, try to make them understand by using gestures. Or simply use your smartphone to translate. Police and security often gets called to abandoned places because of trespassers. Remember that if you get caught. They might even have some experience with urbexes, and you don't have to explain much. Usually those guys are checking what's inside your bags. But as long as you're not a thief or vandal, you don't have to worry much about this. And of course, they will also check your ID. If you're lucky, that's it, and you're allowed to leave. In some cases, photographers had to delete the footage they took in the building in addition. But since it's still a criminal act, you might get a penalty charge or even worse. There are also a few known cases where the owners of abandoned properties fired at urban explorers.
As mentioned earlier, every abandoned place has its own challenges and of course its own hazards as well. For example, on military sites there might be blind shells. Obviously you shouldn't touch them at all, but report them immediately. Despite all those risks, urban exploration is a great hobby. Follow our instructions and you will be able to explore for a long time.
Now you should be well equipped for your Urbex adventures. We only have one more topic for you, which is photography. Abandoned sites offer eerily beautiful sceneries you won't find anywhere else. Overgrown or rusted, you will find plenty of photo motifs which are worth taking a shot. For all the beginners out there, we now have some basic tips and tricks about photography of abandoned places. Ramshackle buildings are usually all dusty, so your lenses will get filthy real quick. Make sure to check your camera occasionally during the exploration and use wipes to clean the lens if it's dirty. You probably have to deal with low light situations, which makes it hard to shoot handheld. In such cases, you have to take pictures with a wide open aperture or high ISO settings. But both aren't ideal in many situations. That's why you should bring a tripod. That way you will get bright photos without the annoying picture noise. And you can also use long exposure times without getting a shaky image. Very practical solutions for Urbex are those travel and guerrilla tripods. Especially with the latter, you can take great photos from unusual angles. Make sure to change your perspective all the time, but also your focal length. Different kinds of situations require different lenses, so better grab yourself some interchangeable ones. For small rooms or in order to capture the whole scenery, it's good to have a wide-angle lens. Work with different field sizes and take photos rich in variety. Long shots might appear very impressive because such images show the place in its whole size. Also try to work with the image foreground. Objects right in front of you might be eye-catchers and make the whole photo a lot more interesting. But also look for details. To capture them, you might want to use an open aperture. Because of the low depth of the field, the detail will be highlighted. While shooting, it's better taking too much photos than too few. And pay attention to light beams. Especially when it's really early or really late, you will have a chance to see them. It depends on the position of the sun. In combination with dust, this will have a great effect and result in cool images. Playing with shadows is also a good idea if you want to take interesting pictures. So speaking of light, there's a high dynamic range in abandoned buildings because of really bright and really dark spots. So it might be a good idea to shoot HDR images. That way, burned out skies in combination with very dark shadows aren't a problem anymore. Some cameras even offer HDR functions. But if your camera isn't able to shoot HDR, just take several differently exposed images. When you're home, you can put them together with your photo editing software. For great photos, you don't have to own a fancy DSLR camera. The quality of smartphone cameras is remarkable today. However, the big perk of a DSLR is that you can switch lenses. Abandoned places have a lot of potential for great pictures. You just have to use it. Get creative. And if the site doesn't offer enough for you, you can try out new things, like light painting, or simply bulb exposures with multiple sources of light. Always shoot things you won't find outside of an abandoned place. If you keep that simple advice in mind, you will achieve great results. Because after all, these things are the reason why you're there. And that's it. We reached the end of our detailed guide about urban exploring. If you keep those tips and tricks in mind, Urbex won't be a problem for you anymore. If you can think of anything we didn't mention, or if you disagree with something we said, please share your experiences in the comments. And make sure to share this guide with your friends if they want to start with urban exploring. But don't forget that you might risk your life while exploring abandoned places. And that it's still a punishable act. So, stay safe, guys. Feel free to visit us on Facebook and Instagram to join our adventures and learn more about urban exploration. We were working on this guide for a very long time now, so we are happy about every thumbs up and every new subscription. Stay tuned for more high-quality Urbex content.